The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets above me as I lay there, legs numb and useless, staring at the sterile white ceiling of the emergency room in Bar Harbor General. "Let me help you," a voice said, soft yet steady, cutting through the haze of painkillers and humiliation, and before I could muster a protest, strong hands gripped the waistband of my jeans, pulling them up with a gentleness that shattered something deep inside me. In that moment, as his fingers brushed the raw skin of my hip, I knew my heart had just betrayed me completely, unraveling in the grip of a stranger who felt like the only anchor in a storm I never saw coming. That stranger was Ronan Hale, a paramedic with eyes like smoked quartz, the kind that holds secrets without giving them away. He was 30, broad-shouldered from years of hauling gear up the rugged trails of Acadia National Park. His dark hair cropped short under a faded Red Sox cap that he never seemed to take off. He smelled faintly of salt air and pine, the scent of Maine clinging to him like an old lover. I was Elias Hawthorne, 28, a lobster fisherman from the Sleepy Hollow of Eldridge Cove, a spit of land where the Atlantic chewed at the cliffs and folks still locked their doors out of habit more than need. My life had been a rhythm of traps and tides, dawn hauls and dusk beers at the rusty anchor, until that squall hit 2 days ago, flipping my skiff like it was kindling. The doctors said the spinal swelling would ease, but the pins and needles in my legs whispered otherwise, at least for now. Ronan didn't leave after he finished the shift change paperwork. He lingered by the curtain, folding his arms over his navy EMT jacket, watching me with that quiet intensity that made the room feel smaller. "You got family coming?" he asked, his voice carrying the flat vowels of the Pacific Northwest. A transplant who'd washed up here chasing ghosts or ghosts chasing him, I wouldn't learn which until later. I shook my head, the 4-line tugging at my arm. My folks were 3 hours inland in Bangor, too buried in their hardware store ledgers to drop everything for a son who'd always been more wave than shore. And Caleb? My brother was off in Portland, building houses and lives that didn't include me anymore. "Just me, then," Ronan said, not pitying, just stating fact like he was cataloging inventory. He pulled up the vinyl chair, its legs scraping the linoleum, and sat. "Tell me about the boat. What she looked like before the sea claimed her." I laughed, a dry rasp that hurt my ribs. She was a 30-footer, hull-scarred like an old prizefighter. Named her Whisper because she cut the water quiet, like she was sneaking up on the lobsters. Had seen wrecks before, he admitted, leaning forward, elbows on knees. Lost a buddy to one off the San Juans back in Seattle. Swell came out of nowhere, same as yours. We fished for hours that night, him sharing stories of rain-soaked decks and bioluminescent wakes, me spilling fragments of my own. The summer ID caught a harbor seal in my trap, its eyes pleading like a kicked dog. The winter dad taught me to mend nets by lamplight, his calloused hands guiding mine. The morphine blurred the edges, but Ronan's presence sharpened them. His laugh low and rumbling when I joked about the time a gull stole my sandwich mid-bite. By midnight, the nurses had dimmed the lights, and the ward hummed with the soft symphony of beeps and snores. Ronan stood to go, but paused, his hand hovering near mine on the rail. "You're tougher than you look, Elias. Most guys would be cursing the gods by now." I met his gaze, those quartz eyes pulling me in like undertow. "And you?" I said, voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here, playing confessor to a half-drowned fool?" He smiled then, crooked and real, the first crack in his armor. "Maybe I'm the fool. Or maybe I just like the company." He squeezed my shoulder, thumb lingering a beat too long, and walked out, leaving the air charged, like the moment before thunder. Morning brought rain sheeting the windows, turning the harbor into a gray smear. My legs twitched, a ghost of movement, but standing was still a pipe dream. Physical therapy loomed like a guillotine. But before the sadist in scrubs could will in, Ronan appeared, coffee in hand, black, 2 sugars, just how ID mumbled it the night before. Head swapped the uniform for jeans and a flannel that hugged his chest. Sleeves rolled to show forearms veined like river maps. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing over the steaming cup. "Hospital's brew tastes like regret." We talked through the session, him spotting from the sidelines as I gripped parallel bars, sweat stinging my eyes, each wobbly step a victory snatched from defeat. When I collapsed into the chair, gasping, he knelt, eye level, wiping my brow with his sleeve. One foot in front of the other, Hawthorne. That's all it takes. That afternoon, discharge papers in hand, I faced the truth. Eldridge Cove was a haul without wheels, and my truck's frame was as mangled as my pride. Ronan offered without fanfare. I got a truck. Bed liners for hauling stretchers, but ITLL do for you. Don't be a hero. I wanted to argue, but the fight had drained out with the 4 fluids. Fine, I muttered. But you dropped me at the door. No heroics. He chuckled, helping me into the chair, his arms steady around my waist as we navigated the halls. In the parking lot, rain easing to mist, he eased me into the passenger seat of his battered Ford F-150, the cab smelling of wet dog and cedar. The drive wound along Route 1, pines blurring past. The radio tuned low to some indie folk station crooning about lost loves and open roads. Eldridge Cove unfolded like a half-remembered dream. Clapboard houses hunkered against the wind, buoys bobbing in the bay like forgotten Christmas ornaments. My place was a weathered A-frame on the bluff, porch sagging under the weight of crab pots and memories. Ronan killed the engine, gravel crunching under tires. Inside was chaos fished out coolers, charts pinned to walls, a fridge humming with the ghosts of last season's catch. He didn't flinch, just rolled up sleeves and set to, clearing the couch, brewing tea from a tin ID forgotten I owned. You live like a man at war with the world, he observed, stacking dishes. I shrugged, easing onto the cushions. Or just a man who's lost too many battles. He met my eyes, something flickering there unspoken. Then let's call this a truce. Days blurred into a rhythm neither of us named. Ronan swung by after shifts, bringing takeout from Clamshell Cafe or splitting a 6-pack on the porch, watching seals haul out on the rocks below. He'd talk about Seattle, the city's relentless pulse that had chewed him up and spat him out after his dad's mill closed, sending him east for a fresh start. I shared scraps of mine. Mama's quiet faith, Dad's unspoken regrets. The brotherhood fled small-town shadows for city lights. One evening, as dusk painted the sky bruise purple, he traced the scar on my knuckles from a slipped gaff. This from the sea. No, I said, voice thick. From loving too hard once, back in high school. A boy named Theo, summer fling that ended in whispers and slammed doors. Ronan's jaw tightened, but he only nodded. The sea's kinder than people, sometimes. It started with a brush of knees under the coffee table, a glance held too long over flickering TV light. Then, one storm-lashed night, power out and candles guttering, he stayed. We sat close on the couch, his shoulder warm against mine, the wind howling like a banshee. Elias, he murmured, turning my face to his with fingers calloused from ropes and rails. His kiss was salt and storm, tentative at first, then deepening like a tide pulling under. I melted into it, hands fisting his shirt, the world narrowing to the press of his body, solid and real. When we broke apart, breathless, he rested his forehead to mine. Been a long time since I let myself want this. Me too, I whispered, heart hammering. But with you, feels like coming home. What followed was a fever dream of stolen moments. Dawn walks on the beach, his hand in mine as waves licked our boots. Lazy afternoons tangled in sheets, tracing the map of freckles across his back. Nights where words failed and bodies spoke, raw and reverent. Ronan was a revelation gentle where ID braced for rough, fierce where ID feared fade. Head wake me with coffee and kisses. Murmur poetry head memorized from dog-eared paperbacks. Make love like it was a sacrament. For the first time, my legs felt steady, not from therapy but from the ground he gave me. Eldridge Cove, once a cage of salt and solitude, bloomed under his gaze, the townies at the rusty anchor nodding knowingly when we'd share a booth, their silence a grudging blessing. But shadows lingered, unspoken. Ronan dodged questions about his past, deflecting with jokes or detours into my traps and tales. One night, post-shift exhaustion etching lines around his eyes, he stared out at the black water, beer untouched. What's eating you? I asked, lacing fingers with his. He sighed. Heavy. Old wounds, Elias. A guy back in Seattle. He took more than my heart. Dragged me into his mess. Debts and deals that nearly drowned us both. I waited, but he clammed up, kissing me fierce to seal the silence. I let it go, chalking it to ghosts, but the hook was set, tugging at the fragile line between us. Weeks turned to months, my legs strengthening under PT and his unyielding cheer. We hiked the carriage roads of Acadia, his pack heavy with sandwiches and secrets, laughing as we dodged tourists in neon packs. Atop Cadillac Mountain, first light gilding the world, he dropped to one knee, not with a ring but a promise. I'm all in, Hawthorne. You and me against the tide. I pulled him up, kissing him until the sun warmed our faces, believing it, needing it to be true. Then the squall hit, not from the sea but from the shore. My folks drove down unannounced, Mama with her lemon bars and Dad with his measuring tape, eyeing the porch like it was a failed investment. They found us mid-kiss in the kitchen, Ronan pouring coffee, me leaning into him like a lifeline. The air froze, Mama's gasp slicing sharper than any gale. Elias? Dad rumbled, face thundercloud. What in God's name? Ronan stepped back, hands raised, but I held ground. Chin up. This is Ronan. He's everything. Mama crossed herself, eyes welling. We raised you better, boy, to hide such sin. It's not sin, I shot back, voice cracking. It's me. The fallout was biblical. Dad stormed out, tires spitting gravel. Mama lingered, pleading in whispers about heaven and hell, the church ladies' tongues that would wag. Ronan tried bridging, offering handshakes and apologies. But they saw only shame in his eyes, the outsider who'd corrupted their son. That night, alone, I broke, sobbing into his chest as he held me. They'll come around, he soothed, but doubt shadowed his words. The next day, a letter arrived, postmarked Seattle. A creditor's notice, addressed to Ronan, sums that dwarfed my annual haul. He snatched it, crumpling, but not before I glimpsed the name Theo. The boy from my story. No, his demon, the ex who'd vanished after fleecing him, leaving IOUs like landmines. Confrontation brewed slow, then erupted. I found the shoebox under his truck seat. Photos of a younger Ronan, arm around a smirking Theo in dive bars and docksides. Ledgers scribbled with bets and balances, a trail of desperation. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded, voice raw in the cab as rain lashed the windshield. He gripped the wheel white-knuckled. Because I was ashamed. Thought I'd outrun it here with you. But Theos back, circling like a shark. Demanding payback or hell drag my name through the mud. Cost me the job, the life we've built. Betrayal stung, not for the lies but the walls had rebuilt around us. You think I'd run? I yelled. We're in this, remember? Or was that just pretty words? He turned, eyes fractured. I can't lose you to this, Elias. You deserve clean shores, not my storms. But I wouldn't yield, pulling him close over the console, our fight dissolving into desperate kisses, hands frantic as if touch could mend the rifts. We made promises in the downpour, vows to face the tide together. Ronan called in favors, old buddies from the force who'd gone private, tracing Theos trail to a Portland flophouse. I sold off traps, scraped savings, hired a shark of a lawyer to bury the debts under legal quicksand. For weeks, we were warriors. Nights spent strategizing over takeout, days stealing touches amid the grind. Love like that forged us sharper, deeper, the kind that scars but endures. Yet the sea gives and takes with equal cruelty. One fog-shrouded dawn, as we prepped my rebuilt skiff for trial, she christened her resilient Ronan's phone buzzed. A number from the past. He stepped away, voice low, but I caught fragments. Not now, Theo, it's over. When he returned, face ashen, I knew. Head paid. Not with cash but concessions of favor. Something murky that left him hollow-eyed. What you do? I pressed, gut twisting. He met my gaze, broken. Signed away the cabin I was saving for, the one up in Bar Harbor. For us, Elias. To keep him gone. Fury and grief warred in me. You don't get to play martyr. Not without me. The rift widened, words turning to weapons. I accused him of underestimating my fight. He hurled back my naivety, the small-town blinders that saw love as simple as a sunrise. We slept apart, the A-frame echoing with silence. My legs aching from phantom walks we no longer took. Eldridge Cove closed in, townies whispering of the queer couple on the rocks. Mama sending Bible verses via text that cut like barbs. Ronan vanished for days, shifts doubling, until he showed at dawn. Soaked and shaking, Theos' final card played. A photo, us on the beach, leaked to some sleazy forum, captioned with slurs that burned my eyes. I found him on the porch, head in hands. They know now, he said. Everyone. And I dragged you into the spotlight. No, I countered, sitting beside him, our knees brushing like old habit. You lit me up. That's the difference. We talked then, truly, peeling back layers. His father's suicide after the layoffs, Theos' seduction as escape turned trap. My own buried fears, the closet ID cracked open only to find mirrors of doubt. Forgiveness came slow, in tears and tentative touches, rebuilding brick by bruised brick. Summer crested, the bay alive with tour boats and tourists chasing lobster rolls. We launched resilient together, Ronan at the helm, me casting lines, the rhythm sinking like our breaths in the dark. One evening, post-haul, we drove to Otter Point, spread a blanket under stars thick as spilled milk. He pulled a small box from his pocket, not velvet but driftwood, carved rough. Inside, 2 silver bands, etched with waves interlocking. Not perfect, he said, voice rough, like us, but they hold. I slipped mine on, the metal cool against fevered skin, and pulled him down, our bodies a testament to survival. Yet fate, that capricious bitch, wasn't done. Autumn winds carried news. Theos' crew, desperate for one last score, torched Ronan's truck in the station lot, flames licking high as sirens wailed. He escaped unscathed, but the inferno took photos, mementos, the last tether to his old life. In the aftermath, ash-smeared and fierce, he turned to me. Run with me, Elias. South to New Orleans maybe, or west to the canyons. Start fresh, no debts, no demons. Temptation tugged, visions of jazz clubs and bayous, hands free to hold without hiding. But Eldridge was bone deep, the sea my blood, family a wound worth mending. I chose roots over flight, pulling him into the decision. Well, fight here, I said. Build something unbreakable. He resisted, fear etching lines, but love won, as it does in the quiet hours. We faced the townies head-on, a bonfire gathering at the rusty anchor where I stood, Ronan at my side, and spoke truths long swallowed. Love ain't sin, it's salvation. We're all adrift till we find our harbor. Some grumbled, others clapped slow, the tide turning one wave at a time. Mama came around last, a Sunday dinner with awkward grace, her hand on mine as she whispered, "Be happy, son. That's the only commandment that matters." Winter clamped down, snow veiling the bluffs in hush. Ronan took a desk job at the station, training rookies, his hands now guiding instead of gripping ghosts. We renovated the A-frame, adding a loft with skylights for starlit nights, walls echoing with laughter instead of laments. One Christmas Eve, as flakes danced outside, he knelt again, this time with words alone. "Marry me, Elias, not for papers but for us." Yes, I breathed, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of pine and promise. The years folded like sails, halls bountiful, fights few but fierce, making up always sweeter. Theo faded to footnote, a scar faded pink. We adopted a mutt from the pound, named him Drift, who chased waves with Ronan while I mended nets. Mama knitted scarves, Dad fixed the porch without a word. Eldridge Cove, once indifferent, became ally, its heartbeat syncing with ours. But life, that relentless current, circled back. At 35, Ronan felt a twinge in his chest during a hike, dismissed as wind. Tests confirmed the shadow, lymphoma, stage 2, the word landing like a rogue wave. Hospital lights buzzed again, sterile and accusatory, as I held his hand, legs steady now but heart fracturing. Head pull through, doctors swore, chemo and prayers in tandem. Yet in the quiet wards, head joke through nausea, eyes locked on mine. "Remember that first pull-up?" He rasped one night, tubes snaking like veins. "Best decision I ever made." I laughed through tears, kissing his knuckles. "Mine too. But don't you dare leave me to zip solo." Treatment ravaged him, body thinning to bone and resolve, but love bulked him up, visitors streaming. Townies with pies, my brother Caleb with stories from Portland. Ronan fought like a man possessed, each clear scan a victory lap. Spring bloomed as remission whispered, and on the bluff, under greening skies, we renewed vows, drift barking approval. He was changed, quieter, cherishing sunrises like contraband. I too, softer edges, gratitude a daily tide. Decades later, gray threading our hair, we'd sit porch-bound, his hand in mine, watching sunsets bleed into night. The sea still whispered secrets, but ours were shared, no betrayals left to unearth. Love, we'd learned, wasn't the absence of storms but dancing through them, pants pulled up or not. In the end, it wasn't about keeping it together. It was letting it all unravel only to weave stronger.